The Interpol agent's hand is on his weapon. Not drawn, not yet, but resting there, fingers tapping against the leather holster in a rhythm that matches my racing heartbeat. Richard Collins, the man who authenticated the Romanov emeralds and valued the Hope Diamond sister stones, has gone completely silent. He's staring at my wedding ring under a magnifying lamp, and his hands, steady hands that have held billion-dollar artifacts, are shaking. "Mrs. Stevens," he finally says, his British accent so tight it could snap. "I'm going to ask you a question, and I need you to understand that your answer will determine whether you leave this room in handcuffs or as a free woman." My mouth goes dry. James, my husband, the man who put this ring on my finger 6 years ago, makes a choking sound beside me. "What?" I whisper. "What are you talking about?" Richard Collins reaches for his phone. Dials a number with those shaking fingers. Puts it on speaker. It rings once. "Collins," a woman's voice answers. "I need you to contact the British High Commission immediately. And get me the FBI's art crime team. I found it." "Found what?" the woman asks. Richard's eyes never leave mine. The Saxe-Coburg rose diamond. The one stolen from the Royal Collection in 1952. The one Interpol has been hunting for 71 years. He pauses. It's been on a high school teacher's finger this entire time. The room spins. The Interpol agent, his badge reads Webb, steps forward, and now his hand is actually on his gun. I need you to remain calm and keep your hands where I can see them." "I don't understand," I say, but my voice sounds like it's coming from underwater. "This ring cost $40. We bought it at an antique market." It's just, Richard interrupts, his voice deadly quiet, "worth approximately $2.3 million. It's been on the International Stolen Artifacts list for 7 decades. And 3 hours ago, your mother-in-law called me personally to request that I expose it as a fake." The words hit me like a physical blow. Patricia Montgomery, with her cream cashmere sweaters and her country club friends and her perfectly manicured contempt. Patricia, who has spent 6 years telling me this ring was costume jewelry. Patricia, who called it an embarrassment. Patricia, who just yesterday, at her own birthday brunch, looked me in the eye and said, "That pathetic excuse for a ring is fake, Anita. Everyone knows it. We've all been too polite to say it to your face." She wanted Richard Collins to prove me wrong, to humiliate me, to give her documentation that my ring was worthless glass. Instead, she's just exposed a royal theft. And I'm the one sitting in this room with an Interpol agent's hand on his weapon, wondering if I'm about to be arrested for a crime I didn't even know existed. "I need to sit down," I whisper. "I think I'm going to be sick." James catches me as my knees buckle. "She didn't know," he's saying, his voice rising. "We didn't know. How could we have known?" "That's what we're about to find out," Agent Webb says. "And that's when I realize my life as I knew it is over. But to understand how I got here, how a $40 wedding ring destroyed a family and exposed a 70-year-old international crime, I need to take you back to the beginning. Before we continue with my story, can I ask you something? I spend 15 to 20 hours researching, writing, and perfecting each story for you. That's nearly a full week of work to create these cinematic experiences completely free. While you're here enjoying this story, YouTube only shows it to a tiny fraction of people unless you take just 2 seconds to hit subscribe. Here's the thing, if just half of you watching right now subscribed, this channel would explode, and I could create even deeper, more complex stories for you every single week. But only about 3% of viewers are subscribed. I'm not asking for money. I'm asking for a single click that tells YouTube show this to more people. So here's my request. If you're already hooked on finding out how I ended up being interrogated by Interpol over a ring my mother-in-law thought was fake, click subscribe. It takes 2 seconds and means everything to this channel's survival. Also, drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. I love seeing this global community we're building. Last video we had viewers from 47 different countries. Now, let's get back to the story. 6 years ago. October. The Fulton Street Antique Market. That's where it started. James had been planning to propose for weeks. I knew it. He knew I knew it. We'd been dating for 2 years, and we'd reached that point where the proposal was inevitable, just a matter of when and how. The market was a labyrinth of vendors selling everything from Victorian jewelry to Depression glass to furniture that might have been antique or might have been IKEA spray-painted to look old. James loved places like this. We were about an hour in when he stopped. Just froze in the middle of an aisle, staring at a corner booth. The vendor was an elderly woman, 70, maybe older, with silver hair pulled back in a neat bun. She was reading a paperback mystery, and she had 3 small velvet trays laid out on her table. "That one," James said, pointing. His voice had gone strange. Quiet. Almost reverent. "The one with the rose-cut diamond." I looked where he was pointing. There, among maybe 2 dozen other rings, was a simple gold band with a single stone. The diamond wasn't huge, maybe 2 carats, but it caught the light in a way that made my breath stop. It threw rainbows everywhere. Tiny prisms dancing across the velvet, across James's hands, across my face. The elderly woman looked up from her book. "You have excellent taste, young man. That one's special." "Where did you get it?" James asked. She smiled, but there was something sad in her expression. "Estate sale in Charleston. 3 months ago. Old family, very old money, all gone now. This was in a locked jewelry box in the attic." She touched the ring gently. "Edwardian era, I believe. Early 1900s. The setting is original, hand-engraved, 18-karat gold." "How much?" James asked. The woman looked at him. Then at me. Then back at the ring. $40, she said. I laughed. "That's too cheap. A ring like this, beautiful things don't always cost what they're worth," the woman said, and those words would echo in my head for the next 6 years. Sometimes their value isn't in their price. James bought it. Paid in cash. Then he got down on one knee right there, in the middle of the antique market, with strangers stopping to watch and the elderly vendor crying into her paperback. "Anita Chen," he said, his voice shaking. "I know my family expects me to propose with something expensive. Something from Tiffany's. But that's not us. This ring is unique. One of a kind. Just like you. Will you marry me?" I said yes before he even finished the question. The ring slid onto my finger like it had been made for me. Perfect fit. Perfect weight. Perfect everything. We floated out of that market completely unaware that I'd just accepted a proposal with a stolen royal artifact. Completely unaware that this ring would become a weapon used against me for the next 6 years. The war started that same night. James wanted to tell his family immediately, so we drove to the Montgomery estate, all 3 stories of colonial architecture and manicured lawns and old money. His mother, Patricia, answered the door wearing cream cashmere and pearls that had been in the family for generations. "Darling," she said, kissing James's cheeks. Then she turned to me. "Anita. How lovely." The pause before lovely was a whole conversation. Inside, the house was exactly what you'd expect. Marble floors. Crystal chandeliers. Oil paintings of dead Montgomerys staring down at you. James's father, Robert, was in the study nursing a scotch. His sister, Caroline, was draped across a sofa, scrolling through her phone. "We have news," James announced, pulling me forward. I proposed. Anita said yes. Patricia's face did something complicated. A smile that involved only her mouth. A tightening around her eyes. "Congratulations," she said flatly. "Let me see the ring." I held out my hand. The rose-cut diamond caught the light from the chandelier, throwing rainbows across Patricia's cream cashmere. She stared at it for a long moment. Then, "How quaint." Caroline materialized beside her mother. "Where's it from?" she asked, examining my hand like it was evidence in a crime scene. "An antique market," James said proudly. "Edwardian era. We found it together." "How much did it cost?" Caroline's smile was razor-sharp. I should have lied. $40, I said. The silence was so complete I could hear ice melting in Robert's Scotch 2 rooms away. Patricia's hand froze mid-air. $40. She said it like I'd confessed to murder. For an engagement ring. It's antique, I said quickly. It's real. The diamond is glass, Patricia interrupted, her voice smooth as silk. Or cubic zirconia. My dear, no real diamond would look that dull. It's a rose cut, James said, his voice tight. They're supposed to look different. Caroline laughed. High and bright and cruel. James, please tell me this is temporary. A placeholder until you can afford a real ring. This is a real ring, I said. My face was burning. And it's the only one I'll ever wear. Robert appeared in the doorway. Son, there are standards. The Montgomery family has a reputation. I'm not marrying the Montgomery family, James said. I'm marrying Anita. Exactly, Patricia said quietly. And in that single word was everything she thought about me. Everything she would spend the next 6 years making sure I never forgot. Over the next 6 years, Patricia Montgomery turned hating my ring into an Olympic sport. Every family gathering, someone would comment. Still wearing the thrift store special, Caroline would say. Patricia's country club friends would ask to see my ring, then struggle to hide their disappointment. At James's cousin's wedding, his aunt actually asked if I'd considered upgrading now that James's business was doing well. But I loved that ring. Loved it more with every cruel comment. Every time I looked at it, I remembered James on one knee in that antique market, choosing me over their expectations. That ring became my armor. My middle finger to their world of price tags and bloodlines. James felt differently. About a year into our marriage, he started bringing home jewelry catalogs. We can afford something nicer now. I don't want something nicer. I want this ring. It embarrasses you. No, it embarrasses your mother. That's different. We'd go in circles like this. Then would attend another family dinner, endure another round of comments about my costume jewelry, and the conversation would start again. It became a scar in our marriage. Not big enough to tear us apart, but always there. 3 weeks ago, Patricia's birthday brunch changed everything. We arrived on a Sunday morning, and I was already braced for impact. 6 years had taught me to anticipate the attacks. You don't have to go, James had said. Yes, I do. It's your mother's birthday. She's going to say something about the ring. Then she does, I said. The house was already full when we arrived. Caroline and her husband. Robert's brother. Patricia's best friend, Margaret. And sitting in the living room, wearing a navy dress that probably cost more than my car, was someone I'd never seen before. Everyone, Patricia announced, her voice bright with barely concealed glee. I'd like you to meet Vanessa Hartley. She and Caroline went to boarding school together. Vanessa stood. Extended a hand with nails like weapons. Patricia has told me so much about you both, she said. And I knew exactly what this was. The seating arrangement confirmed it. Vanessa directly across from James. Me at the far end of the table. I watched Vanessa engage James in conversation, laughing at his jokes, touching his arm. She wasn't flirting. She was demonstrating. Showing me what James could have had. Then Caroline noticed my ring. Anita, she said loudly. You're still wearing that little vintage thing. I keep thinking James is going to surprise you with an upgrade. My face burned. I like this ring. Of course you do, Patricia said smoothly. It has sentimental value. Although, Vanessa, you must see this. Anita's ring is quite the conversation piece. Vanessa examined it politely. It's lovely. Very unique. Then Margaret set down her mimosa with a decisive click. Oh, please. Let's stop pretending. There's a difference between romantic and cheap. $40 for an engagement ring? That's insulting. The table went silent. James stood up. That's enough. No, sit down, darling, Patricia said. Margaret is just being honest. Anita, we've all been tiptoeing around this for 6 years. That ring is beneath this family station. It's costume jewelry. Everyone can see it. Something inside me cracked. I understand, I said quietly, that this ring represents the moment the man I love chose me over your approval. And I understand that's something you'll never forgive. Patricia's smile turned to ice. My dear girl, I forgave that decision the moment I realized it was temporary. Temporary? I stood up. What's that supposed to mean? It means, Caroline said, glancing at Vanessa, that James deserves someone on his level. Someone like Vanessa here. James stood again, his face red. Are you insane? I'm married. Happily married. Are you though? Robert spoke. You've sacrificed your social standing, your business connections, all for what? A teacher who wears fake jewelry. This isn't fake jewelry, I said, holding up my hand. The diamond caught the light. It's real. The gold is real. Just because it didn't cost $10,000 doesn't make it fake. Margaret actually laughed. Honey, that's not a diamond. That's cubic zirconia. We've all known it for years. We just felt bad saying it to your face. The room spun. I looked at James, waiting for him to defend me. He just stood there, frozen. I need to go, I whispered. I grabbed my purse and walked out. Got in my car and drove with tears streaming down my face. I ended up at a coffee shop downtown. Ordered coffee I didn't drink. Stared at my ring under the fluorescent lights. Was it fake? Had I been defending cubic zirconia for 6 years? My phone buzzed. James. Multiple texts. I'm so sorry. They're insane. The ring is real, I know it is. We'll get it appraised if you want. I stared at that last text. Get it appraised. Yes. We'd get it appraised. We'd get proof. And then I'd shove that proof down Patricia Montgomery's throat. I typed back. Find an appraiser. The best one you can find. Through a colleague's connection, James booked an emergency appointment with Richard Collins for Tuesday afternoon. I didn't sleep that night. Or the next. I kept taking off the ring, holding it to the light, trying to see if it was glass. Tuesday arrived. We drove downtown in silence. Richard Collins's office was a conference room on the 43rd floor of the Grandview Hotel. He was younger than I expected, late 40s, with Silver Street hair and a British accent that made everything sound authoritative. Mr. and Mrs. Stevens. I understand you have a piece you'd like authenticated. I took off my ring. It felt strange, leaving my finger for the first time in 6 years. Handed it to him. He examined it with the naked eye. Then a jeweller's loop. Then a magnifying lamp. Then a scale. The silence was unbearable. 5 minutes. 10. 15. Finally, Richard Collins looked up. His face had gone white. Where did you get this ring? He asked, his voice strange. Tight. An antique market, James said. 6 years ago. Why? What's wrong? Richard Collins set down the loop with a shaking hand. Nothing is wrong with the ring. The ring is extraordinary. He pulled his laptop closer, typed rapidly, turned the screen to face us. A black and white photograph. Very old. A young woman in an Edwardian gown. On her right hand, my ring. Same setting. Same diamond. Same everything. This photograph was taken in 1912 at King George V coronation festivities. The woman is Sophia, Duchess of Saxe-Coburg-Gotha. That ring is the Saxe-Coburg Rose Diamond. What does that mean? I whispered. It means this ring was part of the British royal collection. In 1952, after King George VI died, several items were catalogued for transfer to the new Queen's inventory. This ring was one of them. He paused. It never arrived. It was reported stolen. It's been on Interpol's missing artifacts list for 71 years. The words didn't make sense. That's impossible. We bought it for $40. This is the Saxe-Coburg Rose Diamond. Natural rose cut, approximately 2 carats, D color, internally flawless. Conservative estimate. $40,000 to $50,000. Historical value. Immeasurable. James made a choking sound. $50,000. At minimum. But I'm legally required to report this. He reached for his phone. And that's when everything exploded. The Interpol agent arrived. Agent Marcus Webb, with a badge and a gun and an expression that said he thought I was a criminal. Then the FBI, Agent Sarah Chen from the art crime team. The interrogation lasted 4 hours. What did the vendor look like? Elderly, silver hair, I couldn't remember more. Did she seem nervous? No, she seemed sad. Did anyone watch us? I wasn't looking. Did we get a receipt? James paid cash. No receipt. Every answer seemed to make Agent Webb more suspicious. Every "I don't remember" sounded like a lie. Agent Chen was gentler. I believe you didn't know. But someone along the chain knew exactly what this was. Someone sat on a stolen royal artifact for 7 decades and sold it for $40, which makes no sense unless they were laundering it through you. We're not criminals, I said, my voice cracking. We just bought a ring. Finally, they said we could go home. But the ring, I started. The ring is evidence, Agent Webb said. It will be returned to the British Royal Collection. You're taking my wedding ring. Mrs. Stevens, Richard said gently. It was never really yours. It belongs to history. James drove us home in silence. I looked at my left hand. The indent from the ring was still visible. I started crying. They were wrong, I said. About the ring. They were completely wrong. I know, James said. It was real. Worth $50,000. A piece of royal history. And they called it fake. Your mother wanted to humiliate me. She called Richard Collins to expose my ring as fake. Instead, she exposed a 70-year-old theft. She took my wedding ring. My voice broke. And she's going to make this my fault. The story broke the next morning. I woke to my phone exploding. News alerts from CNN, BBC, The New York Times. Stolen royal jewel found on teacher's finger. My face was everywhere. By 9 a.m., there were news vans on our street. Reporters everywhere. Everyone wanted the inside story. At 2 p.m., my phone rang. Patricia. I almost didn't answer. Anita, she said, her voice strained. I've been reading the news. I imagine you have. Silence. Then, I wanted to apologize. I almost laughed. Apologize. I was wrong. About the ring. Obviously. And I may have been unkind over the years. Patricia, I said, my voice ice. You called Richard Collins. You wanted documentation that my ring was fake so you could humiliate me. Is that correct? Silence. You took my wedding ring. It's in an evidence bag at the FBI. So forgive me if I don't accept your apology. I'm sorry, she whispered. Are you sorry you were cruel? Or sorry you were wrong? Silence. I'll call you later. When I'm ready. If I'm ever ready. I hung up. Over the next 3 weeks, the investigation continued. The FBI traced the vendor permit. It was fake. The booth rental paid in cash. The elderly woman had disappeared. No one remembered her beyond that weekend. Agent Chen theorized she'd been a fence or someone sitting on the ring for decades. Either way, the trail was cold. Then I got a call from an unfamiliar international number. Mrs. Stevens. This is Penelope Ashworth from the Royal Collection Trust in London. We'd like to create an exhibit about the ring's journey. And we'd like to commission a replica for you to keep. An exact replica, made by the same jewelers who maintain the crown jewels. I looked at James. His eyes were wide. A replica. It seems only fair. You wore that ring as a symbol of love for 6 years. That's beautiful. Think of it as the crown's apology for taking your wedding ring. We'd be honored, I said. We went to London in November. Beautiful hotel near Buckingham Palace. A week of interviews, photographs, being treated like visiting dignitaries. The exhibit, The Lost Saxe-Coburg Rose, a 70-year journey, opened the following spring. Beautiful. Heartbreaking. The original ring displayed in a climate-controlled case. And at the end, the replica. The jewelers had made it perfect. Identical except for one detail. Inside the band, an engraving. For Anita, who saw beauty where others saw worth. Royal Collection Trust, 2024. I cried when I saw it. It was, in every way that mattered, my ring. When we got home, we had to decide about James's family. Patricia had been calling weekly. We invited them to dinner. All of them. After dinner, Patricia cleared her throat. I owe you both an apology. A real one. She looked at me, actually met my eyes. Anita, I've treated you abominably. I made assumptions based on your background, your profession, your ring. I was cruel. I was wrong. You're remarkable, and my son is lucky. I'm deeply sorry. Caroline spoke next. I was cruel too. I'm sorry, Anita. Robert said, you've handled this with remarkable grace. More than we deserved. Thank you, I said. But I need you to understand. Both rings were never about money or status. They were about love. About James choosing me, and me choosing him, regardless of what anyone thought. That hasn't changed. We understand, Patricia said. Do you? Because if we're going to rebuild any relationship, I need to know you see me. Not as the woman who married above her station. But as me. Anita. Your son's wife. A person who deserves respect. Yes, Patricia said. We will. We'll see, I said. Over the next year, slowly, we rebuilt something. They tried. Patricia asked about my students. Complimented my cooking. Stopped commenting on my ring. Caroline and I reached tentative friendship. The vendor was never found. The ring went on permanent display in the Tower of London. James and I visited it once. It looked different behind glass. Smaller. The replica on my finger seemed more real. Do you miss it? James asked. The original? No. I miss what I thought it was. A $40 antique. A symbol of choosing love over expectation. But this, I held up my hand. This is the same. Same symbol. Same meaning. Just with a better story. My students became obsessed with the story. They wrote essays. Debated ethics. One student, Maya, told me it inspired her. You didn't let them make you feel small. Even when everyone said that thing you loved was worthless, you held on to it. That's brave. I'd never thought of it as brave. Stubborn, maybe. But brave. Maybe she was right. The exhibit ran for 2 years. Over 3 million visitors. I got letters from people worldwide. People made to feel small by in-laws. People mocked for their choices. Their stories broke my heart and healed it. I wasn't alone. James and I are still married. Still happy. We wear our rings every day. We have Sunday dinners with his family monthly. Patricia tries. Caroline and I have clear boundaries. Robert remains distant. So that's my story. How a $40 wedding ring became a crown jewel. How a teacher became the center of an international investigation. How the thing I was mocked for vindicated me. And how I learned that sometimes, when people try to destroy you, they accidentally prove you were right all along. And that's how a cheap wedding ring became a crown jewel. If you made it this far, I need to know, what was your favorite part? Did you see the royal connection coming? Do you think Patricia's apology was genuine? Tell me in the comments right now. And let me know where you're watching from, your city, your state, your country. If this story gave you chills, made you angry, or had you rooting for me, you need to subscribe. Next week's story is even more twisted. Hit that like button. Share this with someone who loves underdog stories. And remember, your worth isn't determined by other people's appraisals. It's determined by what you know to be true about yourself. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.